Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Roll and Move Reviews. My name's Kirk. As always, thanks so much for watching. Today's episode, in keeping with our Halloween theme, we are going to talk about Mansions of Madness, part of Fantasy Flight's Arkham Horror World of games. In this game, you're going to be searching through a haunted house, playing an investigator, trying to solve a mystery, and you have to figure out what's going on in this place before the madness consumes you. Let's take a look. This game is scenario-based, so every time you play, you'll be playing in a different story. There are two books in the game that explain the scenarios. The Investigator players get the Investigator Guide, which is the flip side of the rulebook, and this has all the information on the scenarios they'll be playing for them. It tells you how to set the scenario up, which I've done here already using these modular board pieces. And then it gives you all the information that the investigators will have going into the story, and maybe some information they'll need for their initial setup. Then one player is going to play the Keeper, and the Keeper is kind of like the Dungeon Master, the person who's running the mansion and trying to keep the investigators from achieving their goal. And they are going to get the Keeper Guide. Now the Keeper Guide has all the corresponding information for the scenarios, but I'm going to keep this purposely out of focus because there's actually spoilers on this page. What the Keeper Guide does, it gives the Keeper some secret information. It tells them what actions they'll be able to use, some of the cards they're going to have at their disposal for the scenario, but also it gives them choices over here as to how this scenario plays out. You may get to select things like who the villain really is, what their motivation is, what they're trying to accomplish, maybe what the investigators ultimately have to do to stop them. So you make a couple different decisions, and that's going to create the mystery in the story for the game. So the other thing this does here on this page is tells you how to seed the board with cards. You see here each room has a stack of these cards here that the investigators will be able to go through by exploring the mansion. Now, depending on the decisions that the Keepers made, these cards are going to be different things they need or can use to accomplish their goals. But the most important thing that's in these stacks somewhere are clues to the mystery. So the game will take them through, and depending on where they go, they're going to find a clue. It'll give them a little bit more information as to what they need to do to win, or what they at least need to do to get to the next clue. So they'll follow those through until they get all their clues, and only then will they really understand why they're here and what they need to do to win the game. Each investigator will select a character to play, and if you've played any of the Arkham series of games, you're going to recognize a lot of these characters, and you also recognize their stats. They have health and sanity, because as we all know in the Lovecraft universe, going insane is just as big a threat as dying, if not more so. So you can take both physical and mental damage. Now let's say we select Amanda Sharp here. Once you select the main character, you have some options, because each character has two cards that represent their physical abilities, and you can see they're a little different, and each one of these cards has a different starting item on it. And then you have two cards that represent your mental abilities, and the numbers are different there, and these both have different actions on them. So there's some customization there. You decide exactly who you want your character to be, and then these are your abilities for the game. And all different situations in the game are going to call on you to test your abilities, whether it's combat or trying to figure something out. You test an ability. You roll a 10-sided die. If you roll equal to or less than, you pass. If you roll over, you fail. It's that simple, and pretty much every situation you get in the game is somehow going to use your abilities and have you test them. And once you selected your character, you take the corresponding miniature and place it at the entrance of the house. The two main things that investigators will be doing throughout the game are fighting monsters and exploring the house. Now, monsters usually go down on the board through Keeper actions. Each scenario is going to give the Keeper so many actions he's able to take. And those are going to change based on story needs, scenario to scenario, but they will almost always have the ability to place monsters and the ability to move them. They use their actions by spending these threat tokens that they earn throughout the game, and like I said, that's how they'll get the monsters on the board most of the time. Now, all the combat is card-based, and you are going to be drawing cards from a deck based on which kind of monster you're fighting. Now, if you're fighting something like this axe-wielding maniac here, he is a humanoid, so you draw from the humanoid combat deck. If you're fighting a beast like the Migo, you would draw from the beast deck. And if you're fighting a eldritch creature like this handsome Chthonian here, than you would draw from the Eldritch deck. So let's say you're fighting the Migo here. If you look at the combat cards, you flip them over, you see they have two halves. The top half is for when the investigator is attacking the monster. The bottom half is for when the monster is attacking. So basically, if you're attacking the monster, you flip until you find the kind of attack that you're doing. So you would just discard. Say I was doing a melee attack. I'd flip until I found the melee attack, and I would just resolve the text. And so the attack's going to be different every time. The fight's going to be different every time. You know, say you're shooting the gun. Maybe sometimes you're going to have to test marksmanship because you got to jump on the monster and you get to line your shot up. But if the monster's charging you and you got to get your shot off fast, maybe you have to test dexterity. So the fights are always going to be different depending on what card you flip and how it resolves. If the monster's attacking the investigator, you just resolve that bottom half of the card. And again, that's always going to be something different. The second and most important thing the investigators will be doing throughout the game is exploring the house room by room. To explore a room, you just grab the stack of cards that are in there, and you flip them one by one to see what you found. You may find a useful item like a lantern, or a weapon like this axe. But the most important thing you're looking for are these clue cards. And again, I'm not going to let you get a good look at that because of the spoilers, but there are 5 of these cards on the board somewhere. As you find them, they'll get you closer to understanding what's going on, and the 5th one is ultimately going to tell you what your goal is. If you come to a room that has a lock on top of its stack, you can't enter that room until you've resolved the lock. It may require you to go find a key somewhere, or you may have to do a puzzle. And the puzzles are these little mini games down here. I've set up a simple wiring example. And there's 3 different types of puzzles, but they're all about manipulating tiles to resolve them. In this one, you're trying to create red to red and blue to blue connections the whole way across by flipping these tiles or moving them around. And you can flip or move tiles as many times equal to your character's intellect. So it's a cool little mini game. It's one of the ways to get rid of the locks. The other type of problem you might run into when exploring are these obstacle cards. If a stack has an obstacle on top of it, you can go into the room, but you can't explore until you've resolved the obstacle. Again, this may require a key or a puzzle. You may have to do an attribute test, or you may have to go find another item somewhere that'll help you open up that problem and explore the room. While this is going on, the keeper is going to have these event cards. You can see there's a number down here. Every round when the keeper takes his turn, he's going to put a timer token on this card. When he hits that number of timer tokens, he flips this event card and resolves. And again, I can't let you see that, but this card resolves. And this is basically the timer of the game. There's a stack of 5. If you get to the 4th one, it'll tell the investigators what they have to do if they haven't already found out through their clue cards. If you resolve the 5th one, usually that means everybody loses. If the investigators can accomplish their mission before that 5th card is revealed, they win. If the keeper accomplishes his mission before then, he wins. And if that 5th card gets revealed, like I said, in most cases, everybody loses. That's how you play Mansions of Madness. Of all the Arkham games, I definitely feel that Mansions of Madness is the most cinematic and tells the best story. As you play, you really feel like you're watching these investigators explore this house and you're watching something unfold. It does a great job of setting that mood and that tone of just a scary haunted house, you know, to the point where you're playing, you're like, I really don't want to go down this dark hallway because I don't know what I want to find down there. So the game really sucks you into the theme and sucks you into the mood. I love the fact that the investigators actually have to solve a mystery. It's not just called a mystery, but then it's really, you know, just go find this card and do what it says. They have to take information they're given and really deduce something from that. Now, the level of challenge varies from scenario to scenario and even clue to clue. Some are very easy and they'll figure out immediately. Some are a little more challenging and will take some more brain power to figure out. But overall, I love the fact that they're actually doing it themselves. From the keeper perspective, it's a lot of fun to decide how the game is going to play, what the story is going to be, and then to sit back and watch that unfold. You get a lot of moments where you plan something very specifically to trap a character somewhere, or you thought you could throw them off the trail, and then it plays out just how you wanted it to, and it's very satisfying. So I think playing either side is equally fun, and there's a lot you get to do no matter what side you're playing on. The components are really nice. You get those thick modular boards that are well designed and look like what they're supposed to be, and it's really cool just giving them different uses every scenario and building different boards and different buildings to play in. You get tons of cool minis, cool figures, big giant monsters of all different shapes and sizes. It is an Arkham game, so you get lots of cards, lots of chits, tons of setup time, especially if you're playing as the Keeper. The game says, the rulebook tells you to make all your decisions and do everything at the table while the players are making their decisions and they're doing their setup. I would recommend not doing that. Give yourself a little more time ahead of time to decide how everything's going to be set up. As of this recording, I'm playing tomorrow as the Keeper, and I'm going to go sit down tonight and decide how I want the game to play, just because you want that extra information. That's really your biggest advantage, I think, as the Keeper, is knowing what's coming when the investigators don't. So if you don't give yourself time to really sit down and see how things are going to play out, you lose a little bit of that advantage. Also, as an Arkham game, you have some rules that are, I don't want to say fiddly, there's no bad rules, but some of them would just be a little clunky. There's a lot of them. There's a lot going on. I don't think it's too much of a detriment to the game. If you hate Ameritrash and moving minis around, doing a bunch of stuff, then you're not going to like it. But for me, it's easy to catch on to at least the core rules. And like I said, I'm playing tomorrow night. I haven't played in a while, so I went back to the rule book to refresh my memory on it, and I found myself remembering most of the bigger rules at least. So the rules, although there's a lot, aren't a whole lot of a problem, aren't a really big problem. Replayability can eventually become a factor. I think there are 5 or 6 scenarios in the core book, and you have, you can make different decisions to just change them out a lot. The game's heavy enough that I doubt there are a lot of groups that are going to be pulling this out 2-3 times a week to play it, so you're not going to get through it that fast. So between the fact that you'll probably have some time between plays and you can change the scenarios up, I think there is a pretty solid replayability factor. When I play tomorrow, I'm playing with the same group of people I've always played this with, and I'm going back to old scenarios that we've played before, and I really have no fear of them remembering anything or that ruining the experience, just because there are so many changes you can make, and the games in your head start to blend together. So, but if your group does decide to play this as a marathon, you play 5 or 6 times in a week, eventually replayability may become an issue. That's when you go buy the expansions. Overall, this is a great game. I'm a big fan of this game. It's one of my favorites. It does take a little effort to get to the table and play. I don't get to play it as often as I like, but it's a great experience, great haunted house feel, and just overall, I think a great game. Check it out, Mansions of Madness. Okay, everybody, thanks so much for watching this episode of Roll and Move Reviews. Please leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought. Remember, there's a couple more days left for our big Halloween bash, so please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our Facebook page. While you're at it, visit alteregogames.net. Guys, I was at the mall the other day, and they're already building Santa's Village. Christmas is coming, but don't worry, Alter Ego Games got you covered. If you want to watch some of my older videos, you can find them on Facebook, YouTube, Board Game Geek, or the Alter Ego Games site. If you'd like to contact me directly, email at rollandmovereviews@gmail.com. Otherwise, that's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching. Have fun out there. I've been away, Lloyd, but now I'm back. Hey everybody, I want to take a couple minutes to look at 2 games that I reviewed this month. Of course, Mansions of Madness, along with Betrayal, The House on the Hill. If you haven't watched my Betrayal review yet, go ahead and check that out and you'll get my complete thoughts on the game. But I definitely think it was worth the time to look at them together because they have so many similarities. They're both haunted house themed. They both have modular boards that change every game. They both have multiple books with secrets about what's going on in the mansion and what you have to do to win. So let's compare the 2 of them, maybe decide which one we like better, which one you'd rather play. As far as storytelling and theme goes, Mansions tells a story. It's very cohesive in every scenario. There's a beginning, middle, and end, maybe more so in any game I've ever played. Great storytelling game. Betrayal, the storytelling is a little more random. The game is divided into 2 very distinct segments, and once you start that second segment, you could usually throw out what happened before. One usually doesn't have much to do with the other. So a lot more random in this game. Both games capture the haunted house theme well, but Mansions definitely sucks me in more. Component-wise, nothing to really complain about in Betrayal, except the fact with those character pieces, the sliders don't stay on, they fall off. But you get solid board components, you get little painted minis, average paint job, but they are painted. But there's no comparison. I mean, it's Fantasy Flight, it's Arkham Horror, tons of mini, tons of cards, tons of chits, board components, everything the highest quality. Like I said, Betrayal isn't bad, but Mansions blows it out of the water. You get a bunch of minis. They're not painted, but you get a lot more. So definitely components goes to Mansions of Madness. Gameplay-wise, Betrayal is a much lighter game, easier to teach, easier to get people playing, not as in-depth, and it's more of, maybe not more of an experience, but the gameplay itself takes a backseat to the experience you get with this one. And so it's a much simpler game. Mansions, much more in-depth, much meatier game, a lot more going on. You get more of an actual game experience, and it's a lot less, so no, I wouldn't say it's less social, because there's a big social element to it, but it's not just about that. You have a heavy game here. Like I said, there's a lot of rolls, but there's a payoff for that because you get a much more in-depth game. So if you're looking for a meatier game, Mansions gets the nod. If you want something lighter, go with Betrayal. Replayability with both games, there are secrets that you learn, and that may take a little bit of the bloom off the rose. Mansions, I think, gets a little bit of an advantage there because this game has been expanded, and it may be expanded more in the future, I'm not sure. But Betrayal, to my knowledge, has no expansions. So there's more to do when you finish what's in this box. When you get through everything on Betrayal, you've seen everything you're going to see. On the flip side, I will say in Betrayal's defense that foreknowledge hurts this game less. If a player were to memorize every possible outcome in both games, they'd be done playing Mansions. You couldn't play that anymore. Even knowing what's coming, you'd lose some of the surprise factor, but you can still play Betrayal and enjoy it. Overall, obviously I'm a much bigger fan of Betrayal at the House on the Hill. It's a much heavier game. There's a lot more to sink your teeth into. Really enjoy this one. It is harder to get to the table. It is harder to teach, but all things being equal, if I had all the time in the world, all the players I needed, I'd want to play Mansions. Betrayal, in real life though, I get this to the table a lot more often. Players will play this with me who would never play Mansions of Madness. People sit down and learn this. If I tried teaching them this game, they'd run for the hills in 5 minutes. But they'll sit down and play Betrayal with me every time. So overall, I think there is room for both these games in your collection. If you're looking for a heavier experience and you got to pick one, I'd go with Mansions. If you're going for a lighter game that you could play more often and play with more people, Betrayal at the House of the Hill is the game for you. But you're going to have to make the call.